We touched on the topic of motivation in the performance module. Campbell highlights it as one of 3 determinants of performance. In this module, we'll learn more about what specifically influences motivation. Before we look at those details, though, we need to make sure we're thinking about the same thing. The word motivation comes up a lot in day-to-day conversation, but the definition we use in IO psychology is a little different than what we seem to be thinking and talking about. The discussion for this module will encourage you to work with this question in more detail, so I'll try to avoid a spoiler. It's important to make sure we're all talking about the same definition at this point, though. The textbook talks about motivation from a few perspectives, but we'll use the definition highlighted in the margin, which says that motivation concerns the conditions responsible for variations in intensity, persistence, quality, and direction of ongoing behavior. The theories of motivation discussed in the book are different perspectives on the conditions mentioned in that definition. The textbook uses the metaphors as person is machine and person is scientist to group the differing perspectives. I tend to think it's more helpful to think of them as helping us understand that some of the theories focus on what influences behavior, and other theories focus on how behavior is influenced. Each of the theories presents a slightly different explanation of what influences behavior. One thing that varies from theory to theory is how many variables there are. In other words, how many things influence behavior according to the theory. The drive states theory may be the most simple, as it pretty much says that physiological states influence behavior. The needs and two-factor theory expand to multiple variables. Similarly, the process theories vary in the number of variables. The goal-setting theory might be the most complicated. Your book discusses the characteristics of an effective goal, and there are several of them. Vroom's theory, also known as VI theory, includes some reference to the importance of the content in discussing valence, but expectations and instrumentality are also essential. Equity, reinforcement, self-efficacy theories are somewhat more simple in the number of influences they emphasize. Considering the specific theories brings us back to the question of how they help us understand motivation, other than just identifying what can motivate us or how something motivates us. The theories provide a framework to guide research that adds to our understanding. With that information, we've learned that the psychological content theories, like the needs theory, don't have high levels of support. We can't tease out a specific set of things or specific situations that influence behavior across groups. The process theories have more support, though the intuitive appeal isn't necessarily supported by research. The resources for this week include a video that includes the word drive in the title, an unfortunate title given that it doesn't talk about drive states. It relates to a number of the theories I have in the process category and helps us understand how having multiple theories adds to our understanding. In some cases, theories are competitive. For example, the two-factor theory was meant to displace the needs theory. In other cases, though, they're complementary. For example, VI theory might help us understand the situations in which reinforcement theory or goal-setting theory could be applied to influence behavior. Thinking about motivation as being the conditions responsible for variations in intensity, persistence, quality, and direction of ongoing behavior might seem relatively intuitive, even if it wasn't how you initially thought about the word itself. The theories help us think about the content of the conditions and the processes by which they influence behavior, though research hasn't provided as much support for the idea that we can identify specific types of situations that influence behavior beyond psychological drive states. The theories related to the processes have received more support. The research suggests those processes are a bit complex, and we might need to use different theories depending on the context.